Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 32 breakdown for the No Heroes August Regionals that happened in Hannover this past weekend. It was over 1,000 players with this top 32 cut that we see here today, and a couple of things before we get started. First, if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. It does help the channel out a lot. Also, all of these deck lists are in the website Eggman Events, which is linked in the description as well. We also have a bunch of other OP07 events, and we will be updating with Gen Con in the next couple of days once I get that data. And then lastly, shouts to No Heroes for running the event and also streaming it as well. You can check out the live stream on their Twitch and YouTube, which is linked in the description as well. But jumping on into this one again, we do have, again, it was August 3rd through 4th, 1,000 plus players and 10 rounds of Swiss best of one into a top 32 cut best of three, which was played out into this one too. And of these top 32 leaders, we did have 8 Laws, 7 Luccis, 6 Bonnies, 3 Namis, 2 Luffys, which one topped, 2 Vinsmoke, Reijus, 2 Enel, 1 Moria, and 1 Donquixote Doflamingo. So honestly, this meta continues to be just a really diverse one, and generally it's been like the top 5 of Law, Lucci, Bonney, Enel, and Luffy, but Nami's definitely made a bit of a splash here, and I think it's definitely in one of the better sides for this deck, especially when we look at the conversion from the leader breakdown. So we do see, again, like 2/3 of it are those 5 with Lucci, Enel, Bonney, Red, Purple, Law, and the Star Deck 13 Luffy. But from that too, only 48 players played Nami, but 3 of them were able to get into the top 32, with one of them, David's version, getting second as well. So I think that's been really good for Nami. It's honestly one of the decks I think are being underrepresented from people playing it, but it's overrepresented in the topping 16s and 32s a little bit too. But honestly, Reiju also had like a really good conversion too, being able to go from 2 to 21 to 2 spots is really fantastic. And meanwhile, Rob Lucci not really converting it, and also a surprising kind of like low number of people on Red Purple Law compared to how many people are already able to top with it too. So in general, I think this meta is really open. There's a lot of different leaders and decks that are really open for this meta in general, and it's going to be, I don't know, I really like this meta. I know OP08 is less diverse before we get any restriction changes and notices for that, but I'm really going to enjoy this meta while I still can. So anyways, enough about that. We're going to jump into the individual deck list. So we're going to go over the topping list for each leader, and also real thing to note, the top 8 have 8 different leaders. So we're going to go every list through the top 8, and then also the one Bonney that was able to get the top 16 here too. So we're going to start off with their first place list, which is Christian with their version of Black Yellow Luffy. And I've been on this deck a whole lot recently. It's been one of my favorite decks to play right now. And one of the big things about it is that it is, like, you know, a little bit linear, and I think a lot of people accuse it of that. But I also think that there are some different ways to build it and different ways to play it as well. So newest card for the deck is this Luffy that ends up having a lot of value and a lot of recursion with the deck too. We also have our Saba, of course. This is probably the best card in this deck as well. And so the tech cards that we have for this one, because usually you have about like 4 to 6 spots depending on what your thoughts on what cards are required. So Perona is like one of the big adds for this one, being a 2K, but also being able to be played early if you need to be able to get like a discard, just get another body on board, which is nice. There's also Kuzan. I definitely have tried this card, and I don't like it as much. Sometimes it's good though, being able to play it. If your opponent can't remove it immediately, you can play Sabos to protect it, and then after that you're able to get like a really big removal with like a Rocket Luffy or something like that. So I think all that's really good for the deck too. I haven't been playing the event. I don't like the event as much, but I do think it can be strong for you. And I've played almost verbatim this list before, so I know a lot about it too. So with Kuzan and Perona being more of two of the kind of tech options for it. So I think the deck is very strong, but it also needs a very strong pilot. And congratulations to Christian for their finish with this one. Next up, we've got Nami. So this is David's version of the deck, and we've been seeing a lot of Nami consistently, and we're going to have the Gen Con results the next couple of days. We're going to see that one of them won, and there's other good toppings for it too. Most builds have been going into more of the Kuja Pirate builds, specifically with the Marguerite here, and also with the Snake Dance. being able to bounce back like your Kaya hand is really, really strong, and also get like the defense for it, so your Kayas are kind of safe. We also do have like the one of swag copy of Mr. Hanger, which is fun to see. We have a 2K with the Elder, and then also just like the Mr. One copy. So this one's a little bit more specific on one ofs and cards that you're wanting to play and that kind of stuff. But I think the deck is in a really good spot. There's a lot of decks that are a little bit too slow to take advantage for, how fast Nami is at finishing the game. And I think that Nami is a little bit more proactive with its plays right now, which is I don't know, like it's a balance, right? If Nami's a little bit too good, then it feels bad to just always lose to like a more of a self-played deck. But I also think that Nami does take skill to be able to sequence right, make some decisions, and how you do that too. So this is the build here. Congratulations to David for their second place finish. Next up, going into the top 4, we've got Reiju. So this is Rene's version of the build, and this is a pretty good deck in the sense that we do have a good, the biggest combo that we have for this deck, if you guys don't know, is we have the Porsche being able to use this to look top 5 for a Foxy Pirates, including itself. It can be itself. The other two top targets we have are Gina, which is just a generic 2K, as well as the Tony Chopper, which can be a blocker that also lets you just get a Dom back, since we're usually behind against everything besides Red Purple Law. And then but it can play any 4K or 4K power less purple card, which also means you can play each G. So like if you have 3 Dawn, you play Porsche, do the thing, play each G, and then you can use that to play each G from hand. You have a 5K, a 3.5K, and then a 7-drop 7K on turn 2, and the 7-drop 7K can attack immediately. So that's very, very good. It can win a lot of games just because you have a constant 7K pressure every turn, and your opponent's going to likely have a really difficult time removing it in most matchups. So I think that's been really strong for the deck. It's been a really good thing for the deck to do. We also have new cards, including the Sanji. So this is a promo from the Pirate Party, I believe was called. But the only thing I really care about this is that it is a 2K that also has the Germa Kingdom tag, so you can search it off your 1-drop, Germa 66, as well as the Kingdom stage. So you can make sure to so that's kind of worth being able to get that card if you can. We also do have we do have somewhat Nijis if we need to, but like Reiju and Ichi are like the 2 ones that we really need. This card being able to go into our 7-drop, and then this being able to be a draw 2 is really strong. So other than that, we also have like the Judge, which I've seen some people just take out of their builds because we don't go into the late game as much. But since we are playing 3 of the 4, I think it's worth it if we do. And this deck can be really nasty right now. I know a lot of people are worried about the Red Purple Law matchup, but in my experience, we have a lot of Dawn minuses that we can try to get around it. But most people who try to get around it usually play the 1-drop Sanji, which is an Invis build. So I don't know. I think Reiju is in an okay spot. I know that Red Purple Law is a tough matchup for the deck, but I also know that it's not as around as it used to be. So it's a little bit easier to dodge that. And also just we're in a meta where every deck has a bad matchup. So Reiju's just being Red Purple Law, I think, is something that can just be understood there too. So this is the build, and congratulations to Rene for their finish there. Next up, we've got Rob Lucci. So this is Joshua's version of the build, and Lucci's just been good. I think this is probably there's a reason that it's the most represented deck, I think, in at least what people bring a lot of time. It's just solid. It usually has an answer for most situations, and we are playing some new tech cards for this build. So specifically, I think Brook has been almost cemented in Rob Lucci decks, mostly for being able to put for bottom deck like Sabu's, which is pretty easy for this deck now. It being a 6-drop 6K, I think like if I'm playing against Rob Lucci, seeing a Brook just feels really bad because it's just very good. We also have like the Luffy, which kind of does the same thing. It's just a little bit more proactive. Being able to play this and attack with it is kind of the idea there. And then we also notice that we're not playing any copies of Isho, which I've been seeing a little bit more often, but not in this build. We are just relying on the 8-drop Moria there, and then having the rest of the Cypher Pole engine. So I think this deck is still very good in a lot of ways. We are playing the stage build, which I've seen some people say that they're playing without the stage to see how it goes, and it does all right. But man, if I play this against this deck and I play stage turn 1, I feel really bad about it. So I don't know. I think Lucci's in a good spot. It's going to continue to do very well in this format, and this is the build from Joshua. Congratulations for their top 4 finish. So now we're going into the top 8. We've got Red Purple Law. This is Julius's version of the build. Obviously, Law's been very popular and very present. I don't think it's as popular and present as people were expecting in OP07, but if it's unchanged in the OP08, I think it's going to be in a really good spot. Maybe too good of a spot, but we do have a couple of tech choices and ads here. First, we got 2 copies of the 2020 Chopper Blocker. This one's a little bit slow at times, and sometimes it just gets removed, but if it stays around, being able to use this to be a minus 3k power on attack is really strong for being able to go with your removal with the Trafalgar Law. We also do have the Zoro, the Killer, the Bon Clay, as well as the Reiju. So pretty standard ads from there. No Shiraya in this build, but we are playing 4 copies of the Trafalgar Law blocker. Get 2 out of hand, which is great. We have the blockers from the Kid, the Queen, and then the Missile Sunday. So there's a lot of times where like this deck can just like go down to 1, but then it plays a blocker or even sometimes 2 blockers every turn. And there's a lot of decks that just can't apply enough pressure to get rid of them, which is really strong. So otherwise, we're playing the Sanji. Just make sure that we can take some cards out of our life if we need to get some additional draw, if we need to, and just that extra pressure too. So not much to say. This is Joshua's build. Congratulations. Or sorry, Julius's build. Congratulations for their top 8 there. Next up, we've got Enel. So this is the version from Alexander. And honestly, going into this format, I thought Enel was the strongest deck. And if we look at the conversion rate, it had one of the worst conversion rates, meaning it was probably about 15% of the top, and then it was like 5 to 10%, like nothing, like a half conversion over there. So I do think it's still very RNG based. You are really dependent on seeing your cards. You do have more time and more flexibility, and you see more cards than often, but you are just needed to play so many just non-counter cards since our top end is for Yamato, for Ace, for Katakuri, and 3 copies of Enel. So those are just like your really, really big top end as well. But honestly, the Ace is just such a good card for this deck. Being able to apply pressure if we need to, being able to heal one. Sometimes you're even at like 2 life, you want to just play it to heal up to 3. And then also we just have so many good cards in our life right now. We have the Onami, we have the You're the One Who Should Disappear, we have the Frankie, which is fantastic. And this deck is just very good for what it is. So again, it's a little bit RNG based on making sure that you find your top end and make at the right time the top end that you need, as well as that your life is in the spot you need it to be. But this deck has some really good matchups too. So unless you're playing against Nami feels really bad. So unless you play like your Enel on curve, and like if you play like your Enel, your 5-drop and then your 7-drop on curve, it can start being a little scary, but until then it's not so bad. So anyways, this is the build, and congratulations to Alexander for their finish there. Next up, we got the Donquixote Doflamingo. This is Peter's version of the build. And this deck has been, I think, pretty solid in this meta. I think Dofi is better than Boa in general, too, just because we are a little bit more proactive with where we get our value from. Being able to be very aggressive and play cards from the top of our life is very good. And there's just a lot of good cards. If we're able to get the early tempo, it just means that we can afford to spend our entire turn playing like a Red Rock or a Gravity Blade as well. So most decks are playing a top end of Kaido, since once this hit the board, being able to draw 4 is really nice, and being able to put the pressure with a 10-drop 12k every turn is fantastic. We also have the new Boa Hancock, which this card being able to use it to essentially it stuns a card, being able to play it, remove something. There are a lot of turns at the beginning I'm like, oh, it's blue, what can they do? They can't remove my thing and put another body on board and apply pressure, and this essentially does that. Even if I can't attack with it, even if it's just not attacking, it's the same as like removing it from the board for the turn, which is pretty rough. So I do like that card for it. And then obviously just the new engine of like Jinbei's here. We have a bunch of new 2Ks and just a lot of good value there. So not much more to say, but I think Dofi's it's in an interesting spot. I know it's like it has some consistency issues, but it has some like polarizing matchups that help it a lot too. So this is Peter's build, and congratulations to their finish there. The next up, we've got Gecko. So this is Nott's version of the deck, and I still think Gecko's in a pretty okay spot in this meta. If we looked at it as well, we only had 52 people play it, but we did get one in the top 16. So it's about the a little underrepresented from people who played it, but I do think just again like so many people on Lucci comparatively from Gecko, and I think that Gecko can still still be good. The probably the best thing and worst thing about this deck is that it is more how would I say it's more consistent, I would say, than Rob Lucci. You'll see a lot of Lucci players say they just mill their 8-drop Morias and they don't have anything to do with it, but it has less of like a top end, I would guess, to say. So we do have obviously like the Moria and Isho, but more I'm saying is like the pressure that it can admit. You pretty much know how much they can do, right? There's no like super swingy play. I think Rob Lucci has a better 8-drop Moria play with the Rebecca Spandine, which is fantastic. And this deck just it does well, but if you're able to high roll better, then this deck just kind of loses to that. But we have a lot of removal. We have a lot of ways to get like bodies on board, which is good. Obviously, having a searchable Gecko Moria is fantastic. Isho is fantastic against a lot of decks, and I despise this card playing Black Yellow Luffy right now. Sakazuki's been a good card just to play on curve, get some removal, and put a card that we need into trash. And I'm not too surprised that Gecko Moria is able to still do well in this format. And we're going to see it do well in other events that were happening this same weekend as well. So not much more to say. I think we're in a good spot, and this is Nott's version of the deck. And then finally we've got Bonney. So this is Stefan's version of the deck. And this is the top 16 version of the deck too. But I think that I have such a love-hate relationship with Bonney in this format and green in general. I think that this deck it can be very, very good in so many situations and feel really unbeatable. But you also are just so dependent on playing your cards on the right curve, and you have such a big top end that you can get just stuck with so much non-counter in hand, which is unfortunate. So, but again, like if you're able to play Eau Rouge on curve, is able to live, and then you're able to play like follow up with like a Cavendish into like a Basil Hawk. Like there's so many things that you can do with this deck that it feels disgusting. So there's so many decks that just get hurt by this activate, or when opponents attacks too. So there's so much value for what this deck can do, but man, it is very, very tough at times when you're just able to not see any counter for it as well. So I don't know. I think, and we have like such good finishing power. Hody Jones is so good against so many decks, especially like Nami. Being able to play this against Nami on curve just is super good. Being able to play like Dofi against some decks just buys you another turn as well, especially if you have like the Eau Rouge or Cavendish setup, so you can have the Dawn open for the resting still, and the 9-drop Zoro, which is really good against a lot of decks too. If you're able to play this card and it sticks, then there are a bunch of decks that just lose on the spot too. So anyways, this is the Bonney build. This is Stefan's build, and congratulations for their top 16 there. So, and that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, if you want any of the deck lists, they are on the website Eggman Events, and you can check out all of the top 32 as well. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you again to No Heroes for running this event and for providing the deck list. And that's going to be it for me. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.